All right, today we're going to dive into the massive shifts happening in AI right now. We're talking everything from the big boardroom strategies all the way down to what you can do at your own keyboard to get ahead. You know, for the past couple of years, everyone's been asking the same thing. Which AI is the smartest? Well, I'm here to tell you that's completely the wrong question for 2025. The race isn't about who can get the highest score on some test anymore. Nope. It's about something way more important. Which AI actually gets the job done? The one that plugs into your life and just works. Okay, so to really get what's happening, we've got to start high up, the 30,000-foot view. Let's take a look at the new battlefield where all the big AI players are fighting it out. So, here's the thing. We've kind of hit a ceiling. The top models are all, well, they're all really, really good. You've got Google's Gemini 3 Pro, which just blew past the 1500 Elo score. That's a system they use to rank players in chess, but for AIs. And it's a beast at complex reasoning. Then you've got OpenAI's ChatGPT with its massive user base, and Anthropic's Claude, which is fantastic for coding. The point is, on most general stuff, they're all playing in the same league now. And that one word, parity, it changes the entire game. I mean, think about it. When raw brainpower is basically a commodity that anyone can access, the fight has to move somewhere else, right? The battleground has totally, completely shifted. So we've gone from being obsessed with raw intelligence, standalone tools, to demanding that AI fits deep inside the software we already use every single day. The value isn't some chatbot that can write a cute poem anymore. The real value is an AI that can automate an entire workflow from A to Z without you even thinking about it. In this new battle, it's being fought on three main fronts. First, specialized skills, like Gemini's insane ability with complex science. Second, cinematic creativity. We're talking tools like Sora 2 that are pushing out photorealistic 4K video. It's wild. And third, and this might be the biggest one for business, is just pure ecosystem dominance. Think Microsoft jamming Copilot so deep into Office 365 that you can't imagine working without it. That's the goal. Okay, but this explosion of power, it creates a huge new problem, doesn't it? If AI is getting baked into everything, how do we stop things from just becoming total chaos? How do you build systems that are not just powerful, but that you can actually trust and control? And that question is the perfect lead-in to our next section. We're going to zoom in now from the big market strategy down to the nuts and bolts of how you actually build an AI you can rely on. So the solution really starts with this idea of an amiable agent. And the key phrase here is radical simplification. Now, this doesn't mean making the AI dumber, not at all. It means making it less of a black box by building it with a clean, modular design. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like building with Legos instead of trying to carve a complex statue out of one giant block of marble. Each piece has a purpose, which means you can actually understand what it's doing and, more importantly, trust it. And that Lego-like design breaks down the AI's thinking into 4 clear steps, which, surprise, surprise, looks a lot like how a person works. First, you have perception. That's like its senses, gathering data. Then the cognitive part. That's the brain. It thinks, reflects, makes a plan. Next is memory, to keep track of what's going on. And finally, you have the action module, which is like its hands. It's the part that actually goes out and does stuff, using tools. The key is each part has one and only one job. And this right here, this is probably the single most important rule for building an AI that doesn't go haywire. The brain, the LLM, has one job: to think, to make a plan. It's the controller, the strategist. It should never be the one to actually execute the plan or mess with things in the real world. That's what the action module is for. It's that clean separation of duties that keeps the whole system stable and predictable. Okay, so we've seen how these systems are built to be trustworthy under the hood. Now for the fun part. Let's talk about how you get to be the one in the driver's seat. This is where you get your new superpower. But using it requires a huge mindset shift. Forget what you know about coding, because natural language, just plain English, is the new programming language. You're not debugging syntax errors anymore. You're debugging your own intent. You're not writing functions. You're just describing the outcome you want. And the shift, it turns every user into what people are calling a super worker. Suddenly, a marketing manager who's never written a line of code can build a system that automatically turns blog posts into social media content. That's a job that would have taken a developer weeks just a few years ago. So, how do you code in this new world? It all comes down to these 3 pillars for writing a great prompt. Pillar 1, define the role and goal.
Tell the AI who it is and what its one job is. Pillar 2. Give it all the context, the inputs, the constraints, who the audience is. And pillar 3, and listen up because this is the absolute game changer for automation, you have to demand structured output. You force the AI to answer in a clean, predictable format like JSON. That structure is what lets you plug its response directly into other apps, making automation possible.
All right, we've talked big picture strategy, we've looked at the technical architecture, and we've got the secret sauce for prompting. Now let's put it all together. Let's see how this actually works in the real world by automating a real workflow. Let's take a super common task, right? Turning a blog post into a bunch of social media posts. The old way is a ton of manual copy pasting. The new way, you set up an automation. The trigger is simple. A new blog post gets published. That automatically fires off an AI action, sending the text to our perfectly structured prompt. The AI does its thing, spits out a clean JSON file with all the posts, and boom. That data is used to automatically create draft posts in Slack, Trello, wherever you want them. And this is the payoff. Look at this. A task that used to be a 2.5-hour slog of boring manual work is now done, start to finish, in about 3 minutes. The ROI on that is it's absolutely massive. And the best part, you don't have to be a coder to do this. This whole thing can be built on no-code platforms anyone can use, like Zapier or Microsoft Power Automate or Make. You're just dragging and dropping blocks. But you have to understand this kind of workflow automation, this is just the beginning. So let's zoom back out one last time because all of it is pointing towards a future that is truly agentic. So what are agentic systems? Well, they're the next step in the evolution. We're not talking about a tool that just does one little task for you anymore. We're talking about autonomous systems that can manage an entire, complex, multi-step project all by themselves. Imagine telling an agent, book me a trip to London next month, and it just does it. It finds the flights, books the hotel, checks your calendar, and handles everything without you having to click a single button. And this is how everything we've talked about snaps together into this incredible flywheel. You have the big tech ecosystems from companies like Microsoft and Google. They provide the playground for these agents to live on. You have the amiable architectures we discussed, which make sure the agents are reliable and safe enough for real work. And then you have structured prompts. That's your part. That's the steering wheel. That's how you take control and tell these powerful systems what you want them to do. So the big takeaway here is this. The future advantage, the real win, isn't about generating one more piece of text or one more cool image. It's about who can build systems that autonomously achieve complex, multi-step business goals all on their own. And all of this leads us to one final, really critical question. Because as these autonomous agents start managing more and more of our work, the most important question we have to ask ourselves isn't what can AI do anymore? It's what should we trust it to do? And that right there is both the challenge and the incredible opportunity of this new agentic age. Because the more we hand over, the more that question of trust becomes, well, everything.